Lisa left to her bedroom in search of coffee. She had given John a new coffee machine for Christmas, a nice programmable one. She remembered laughing about it on Christmas morning. John had wondered about the gift, if it was really for him or if it was more for her. This morning, it was definitely for both of them. Lisa walked down the upstairs hallway, past their children's bedrooms. She smiled wistfully. Neither child was a child anymore. Both Robin and Chris were attending university, and Lisa was thankful they were lived close enough to several good schools so the kids could stay at home while they finished their degrees. She was also thankful that her parents had advised them to open RESPs for Robin and Chris when they were newborns. As she started down the stairs, Lisa passed two of her favorite family pictures on the wall. Their first was a picture of Lisa and John on their wedding day. What a wonderful day it had been. Everything was so special, so perfect. Each of their 46 guests had agreed that Lisa looked stunning in the $899 dress she had found in this last season's fashion section at the Bay. John's parents' farm had been decorated simply but elegantly. There was nothing more beautiful than a country wedding on a summer afternoon. The food had been delicious, and the only ice anywhere was in the drinks. Lisa and John were saving for a down payment when they got married, so they decided to skip the traditional, expensive honeymoon and had instead rented a charming lakefront cottage near the Halliburton for a week. The second picture was a family photo taken during a 10-day vacation to Walt Disney World when the kids were younger. It had taken them 2 days to drive down in their nearly new minivan, but they had made the drive an adventure for the kids. Lisa had arranged an awesome condo for the week with a huge pool and a long, winding, lazy river. They went to the Magic Kingdom for a day and to Universal Studios for another. They prepared some of their meals at the condo and ate others at restaurants. They even took a day trip to the Gulf Coast so the kids could go swimming in the ocean. Later that day, they had all gone out for a special dinner at a beachside restaurant, where they sat on a patio and watched the sun go down as they enjoyed their meal. 12 years later, Robin and Chris still talked about that trip. Lisa and John had saved $5,000 so they could afford to go on that trip. It took them just over a year. John had earned extra money serving part time at a local restaurant, and Lisa was able to work some overtime at the hospital. John had kept a logbook of their mileage and all their spending while they were on their adventure. When they got home, they were delighted to find they still had close to $500 left over after paying for everything, including their credit card bills. John and Lisa still talked about that trip. Lisa headed towards the kitchen to get her coffee fix. Upon entering, she stopped abruptly and dropped an F bomb worthy of Julia Louis Dreyfus. The new coffee machine was somehow clogged up, and chunky hot coffee was running everywhere, all over the countertop, down the front of the refaced cabinets, and onto the floor. The RRSP and RESP statements that had been the subject of so much discussion the night before were now saturated with coffee. Lisa pulled some dishcloths out of a nearby drawer and started placing them strategically in the pool of wasted caffeine. She dumped the dripping filter into the garbage, rinsed everything out carefully, and put on a fresh pot. Once she was confident that everything was flowing properly, Lisa finished cleaning up the mess and took the coffee-soaked dishcloths downstairs to throw them into the laundry room. On her way there, she passed by the office that John had set up for them in the basement. She looked inside and noticed that she had draped his old Leafs jersey over the exercise bike he had bought on Kijiji a couple of years ago for $50. He had used it a grand total of 2 times. In fact, she still teased him about that every chance she got. Lisa made her way back upstairs to the kitchen, poured herself a fresh cup of coffee, and sat down at the table. She thought back to the money conversation she and John had had the night before. It wasn't the first such discussion, and knew it wouldn't be the last. Same story, same characters, same themes, slightly different details. Their house was indeed theirs. They had finished paying off their mortgage 6 years ago. Lisa remembered that the first time she saw the house, she wondered if it would be big enough to raise a family in. John had reminded her how small houses had been when they were kids, even though most families at that time were larger. As it turned out, he was right, a fact he still teased her about. Their home was plenty big enough for their needs, and the money they had saved for choosing a small house over a larger one had been put into far better use elsewhere. Their combined RRSPs had a total value of just over $650,000, while it appeared likely they would accumulate over $1 million by the time they had retired. That wasn't the point. The point was that they didn't have to worry about how they were going to be able to afford to retire, and they wouldn't be worrying about money when they did retire. They had a great home, no debt, enough money stashed away to fund their kids' tuitions, and were well on their way to a very comfortable retirement. Lisa reflected on this as she poured herself a second cup of coffee and decided to relax at the kitchen table a while longer. She had to go out later and get an emissions test done on her car before she could renew the license sticker, but wasn't worried. She had all day. As she strolled back to her seat, Lisa realized she wasn't going to be uncomfortable. She wasn't just going to be comfortable today. She was going to be comfortable for the rest of her life. If you were able to choose one of these stories for your own future, which one would it be? Unless you're the type of person who enjoys eating ice cream during a root canal without anesthesia, you probably opted for the latter version. Why wouldn't you? Lisa and John 2.0 were enjoying a lifestyle that many Canadians aspire to enjoy. They lived in a comfortable home and were mortgage free. They were able to help their kids through university. They were healthy, stress free, debt free, and on their way to an early retirement. They had gone on wonderful vacations, had a beautiful wedding, and drove perfectly acceptable cars. They had accomplished all of these things without noticeably reducing their standard of living. Lisa and John were comfortable, not just financially, but in every tangible sense of the word. It's pretty clear that the second Lisa and John were living the good life, not because they made more money over the years, but because how they handled their money had they had made over the years. Simply put, they made better decisions with their money. They had more money coming in than they had going out. It sounds almost simplistic to say, but good financial planning is often little more than making sound fundamental decisions and spending less than you earn. That's easy to write, but there are an awful lot of people out there who want to make decisions about your money that will turn it into their money. The stores in your local mall would prefer you shop until you drop, rather than save your money for your future. Banks and real estate agents get more of your money when you buy a McMansion than they do when you buy a smaller home that truly meets your needs. And don't get me started on credit card companies. Yet, their entire business model is dependent on you making bad financial decisions. The good news is that making sound financial decisions doesn't need to be difficult at all. It doesn't require an advanced degree in mathematics. It doesn't require you go without. It doesn't require a six-digit income or for you to understand how the core inflationary pressures of international markets are negatively impacting the likelihood of the Bank of Canada making further rate cuts priced towards the short end of the yield curve. Honestly, who talks like that? It does, however, require you to venture down a rabbit hole with me.